What's up, everybody? It's your favorite biker cops from Cybertron's favorite nerd, and today we are looking at the MMC Ocular Max all-in-one groove, or Incertus, oh boy, so to speak. I bought this for my personal collection, so I'm anxious to take a look at it and get it on the shelf, but in order to do so, we need to look at the figure, and in order to do that, we need to look at accessories. He actually comes with a fair amount of accessories for an MMC product. We have two extra faces. This smiling face that I can't even get my fingers on, so to speak, has potential for me to be used, and I'll tell you why when we get to the figure, but the teeth are kind of painted white underneath. Nothing else really to report. He comes with this bullhorn. It's painted silver. You utilize it by popping the hand off and then inserting the bullhorn in. He comes with a pistol, and we have a little bit of red translucent there in the back. It almost feels a little bit Lego-ish in my opinion, but decent enough. And that operates by plugging it into the back of the palm and then wrapping the fingers around it. And it'll hold it just fine. To store this weapon, you have to fold the handle in, and then you have to open up the bike and insert it in the back of the bike. And then now and that does look pretty cohesive, which I thought was cool. And then he comes with like his two signature leg cannons, sculpted well enough, black plastic. You see the square here. That's to be utilized by opening this flap here. There's a little piece that you can fold out. And then once that's out, you just insert the side guns on it. And that's how you utilize it. And those work the same way in alt mode as well. It just sits up on top of the vehicle and you just plug them into the side. Same thing. And we'll get in tight on the head sculpt for Dennis. So there's something I should mention. His collarbone area, or like his neck area, is intended, I believe, to sit up like this, but it's a very awkward look. So I prefer to sink it down. It makes him look a little cooler, in my opinion, but I believe it's supposed to be like this. The face is painted. The visor is painted. The helmet's black plastic. The lips on this guy, I'm not sure if you can see. The sculpt on the lips is very muted, which is a bit of a bummer. I'm probably going to end up using the smiling face as a result. The head is on a ball peg. You get limited up, but it's there. You get good down. You get the swivel, but it bumps up against these collar pieces. You might even be able to get this up just a little bit more. Yeah, and then you can clear the collar pieces. And then you get the confused groove face. Back out a little bit. We do have silver and gold. And what an appropriate season for it. This is a lot of paint for MMC. For those that have followed their work, like, this is an ambitious amount of paint for them. Which is nice to see. While we're on the topic here, limited sculpt work, but that's because they're trying to do they're trying to stay in that tune pocket a little bit. We have a soft ratcheted waist swivel that once you go too far, it starts to look a little goofy, but I think once you go too far with any waist swivel, it starts to look a little goofy. And then we have a 90-degree almost ab crunch, so that's nice. Arms are painted on the front, side, and inside, and then white on the back. So the paint is applied to the rest, except the bicep has paint throughout. Arms get you out to 90 degrees, 360 around, and you get a bit of a butterfly joint. And this is actually on a double hinge. So utilizing the double hinge, you can get even more of a butterfly joint, which is worth noting. Bicep swivel, single hinged elbow bend that gets you past 90 degrees, which is nice. The wrist hinge in and out, which is nice, and swivel. And then the fingers are on a base pin ball peg, but a base pin knuckle, but they are individual, but they are typewriter fingers, so not the best. And then the thumb is on a ball peg, which is fine. Alrighty, we do have some sculpt work on the bicep, which is nice. A little bit there on the forearm. I'll take it where I can get it. All right. So we have these hip skirts. They'll get up and out of the way. for universals, that gets you out to here. Forward and back on what seems like inconsistent ratchets to me. Maybe they're not. They don't feel great though. They don't feel like they're doing anything to support the actual weight. Do you know what I mean? Like they're just there to sound good. Thigh swivel. Once again, the gold paint looks great. The silver on the piping down the legs looks great. We have a double jointed knee, but you don't get much past 90 degrees. We have silver, obviously, for the vehicle bits. Also, these don't like peg in anywhere. They just sit over top. And as I've manipulated the figure, they have a tendency to come all over the place, so to speak. And like you can always just push them right back in place, but just one of those things that's a little obnoxious. And then police on the pad printed paint. Then we have the translucent red plastic there, and there. Orange translucent plastic on the sides. Full ankle rocker. No, slight ankle tilt up. No real ankle tilt down. You do get a toe tilt up as well. This kind of prevents you from moving any forward, and this does move for transformation, but for the sake of the figure, it's supposed to kind of keep weight against it to keep the foot in line. So no ankle tilt down, which is ultimately okay. And then let's see what he has. And then there he is from the back. You know, I think it handles the backpack fairly well. You know, you can tuck that in a little tighter too. Yeah, pretty decent. Let's take a look at him with the others. And there he is on my shelf, and I love this look. Like it's gonna make for a good looking shelf. And what I dig most about it is, like, I can kind of have the police on one side and the rescue stuff on the other side, and then hotspot right there in the center. And I think that it's gonna look good. I'm gonna have two kind of more dynamic poses, and then three more stoic poses. Like I think it's just gonna be a well balanced shelf at the end of the day, and look good. I think they look good together. You know, it's kind of great to see. Feels good. All right, let's get him transformed. So spin the waist 180 and untab this side piece. Flip that around and tab it in up top on both sides. And pull the backpack out, and then you can straighten the wheel as well. And then you can just get these out of the way for now. We have to untab. You can rock these arms out. This whole silver section here, and then rock it down. Same on this side, except you have to keep this kickstand open. Untab, and then rock it down. And then you have to flip the head around by disconnecting this chest piece, flipping the head inside. I think that sits flat up against there. Make sure that your head and neck and all that are squared up, head facing the front of the bike, and then encapsulate the head with these two gold chest panels. At the top here, take these two sections, bring them forward and tab them in, and then the arms you want to flip. You can open up this panel here on both sides. There's the ox sculpted in. I wonder if the ox is it was a Patreon thing. Don't sweat it. Then you can fold the arm in this way, right? So that that hinge forms up that whole engine block, right? And then take the forearms and collapse them on top of the biceps. So same for this side. We've got that panel already down. We're going to rotate that around, and then we're going to collapse the forearm onto the bicep, and then you can bring both of these pieces up and over. I think these can be like this to form up in the center. Okay, so now we can work on the lower legs a bit. So, with these pieces flat, you can fold in the toes. Keep that straight. And let's see, these pieces move forward on both sides. And they kind of notch into the thigh. And then these pieces you got to spin around. We got to work on that later, but just spin them almost all the way. And then, and then on the back here, you want to open up this and pull it down, which will release this entire armature. So open up and pull down. And then the bike has to line up, the wheel rather has to line up a certain way. So I am going to do the best I can. Let's see where it's right about there. And tab that in as well. And actually, you can't have these tabbed in quite yet. Okay, so bring this down. These will tab in here to the bottom of the thighs, or the back of the thighs rather. And then you can rotate this whole back section around. I'm trying to just make sure I'm doing this right. I'm doing it wrong. Yes. All right. Slide these forward, or back rather, I guess. It's all got to work together. There we go. But these have got to stay straight. My knee joint wants to bend with it, but the knee joint has to stay straight. And then these push forward. These are on sliders. They'll slide out and meet and tab together. And they'll sit down and tab in. This sits up. Make sure this is all together. Get these out of the way. As this, you got to get this wheel down far enough where the tab. That's the one thing I'm not liking about this. The tab where this plugs in is visible. There. And I feel like there. And then keep these up and out of the way. Make sure that's sitting there. Keep all that. These pieces can then rotate forward and tab into everywhere where they need to be, which is multiple places. But it kind of like solidifies all this in the back. I'll have to clean that up. Same on this side, right? Rotating it forward, tabbing all that in. And then flipping these down. Making sure everything is nice and tight, so to speak. Get your handlebars sorted. Your kickstand comes out or in, depending on how you want that. Oh, there's this thing over here. I almost forgot. This has to slide over and sit horizontal as opposed to vertical. And I think that's it. I'll clean it up. We'll take a look at it. And there it is in alt mode. We'll get some size comparisons out of the way. There it is with Tiger Tracks. So big old bike. You know, we'll get that out of the way. I can bring in the X-Transbots one. You know, kind of interesting approaches in terms of the different aesthetics and styles and so on and so forth. You know, I think so anyway. Get him out of the way, and now we can just focus on the bike. So you can get this out of the way. Rolls like a champ, rubber tires. I love the tire tread sculpt. Like, I feel like that's really good. Better than what we often see for tire tread sculpting. You got the pad printed paint for the Star. Pad printed paint for the Police still shows through. That's double bang for your buck. All the silver for the engine block. Translucent plastics here and there. You got the speedometer and stuff on there all painted with pad printed paint, which is nice. Your handlebars are painted silver. And the red accents. You can turn the wheel a little bit, which is impressive. Back is clean. Brake lights are done with that translucent plastic. Not my preference, but I get it. Silver pipework looks good throughout, so to speak. Yeah, and it's pretty easy to get there. I do wonder if this shouldn't... If these pieces... I don't know, I'll have to look at the book. Shouldn't be like that. I don't know. Maybe that looks better. Either way, in a very, like, with the exception of me trying to get this wheel through, and that's just, I think, from a matter of getting a lot of this stuff loosened up, that, I mean, a pretty easy and fun transformation, you know, like on almost like, you know, voodoo level, you know, almost in that like Unique Toys pocket of like just really impressive engineering. So yeah, well done. Kudos. And now we can go to combine mode. There he is with Blue Pool, by the way. All right. So not a whole lot to do. We have to untab our seat, separate, and then slide back in. And then we have to separate this little section here that I may need a spudger for. Because that does form up pretty tight, doesn't it? There we go. And you got to separate that like it was in robot mode. Bring that down. Tabs back into the side. Bring this down. Tabs back into the side. Ouch. Pointy a little bit. All right. Then with these slid, also you want to bring them back down. There's a separate peg system for them to lock into. And then you just spin this around. Be mindful of the handlebars. Hopefully you can ride your bike with none, but if, you know, we don't want to break them off here. And then I think this just sits there. You know, maybe like that. Maybe like that. You know, that's it. You know, and then the foot of Defense Force sits underneath, but that's that. You know, I mean, nothing really to talk about. We can go ahead and, I don't think we need to have a cutscene, but, you know, effortless, really. And it's hard to say how I feel about all this with, you know, it's just manipulating the bike. You know, I got to see how it connects into the thing and how it all sort of ends up feeling solid. Maybe that's what these are for, really, more so is for combine mode. So yeah, time will tell, right? We got one more to go. Final thoughts wise, we'll start with the negatives. His head does look a little goofy up on that collar ridge. I like that you can tuck it down, but then there's those two white bits that kind of sit flanking the collar that kind of bulk out that whole area and make it look less smooth in general. I also feel like the two exhaust pipes that sit on the front, they often come detached or moved around because they don't peg into the front of the vehicle, or the front of the shin rather, and I would have preferred that they did. The typewriter fingers are an issue. They're just ugly, and they only look good holding a weapon or making a fist or typing at a computer or a typewriter, to be fair. And the kind of stoic face lip sculpt is not my favorite. It's just very muted. It's kind of hard to even notice it. And then the only other thing, if I were to nitpick the robot, would be it has those double hinged knees, but you can only really utilize one hinge of them just due to the kind of overall sculpt of the character. And then I guess I could say with engineering and stuff that, you know, over time, some of that stuff will loosen up probably. And, you know, it's a little frustrating at first, but it's such a nitpick because it's really brilliant how they get it done. And speaking of the good stuff, let's just go ahead and get to the positives. Moving on to the positives, once again in typical MMC fashion, so much character comes through that's largely in part to the sculpt and greatly in part to the amount of articulation that they cook into these things. Just so much life is able to come to these figures. This is also MMC's kind of most ambitiously painted piece in my opinion, at least in a long time, and I think it benefits from it. It's a goofy looking character and all that silver and gold metallic paint help make it pop. I know I mentioned the articulation bringing the character to life, but just, I mean, the full range of the elbow, the full range of the abdomen, great hip articulation, like et cetera, like it's just with the exception of the single bend knee pretty much and the limited ankle tilt down, like it has everything else you'd ever want. The materials feel good, the build is good, a lot of tension joints, but the tension feels right. It feels like tolerance perfectly. And I love the transformation. I think the alt mode looks great. All of the accessories are utilized in all the modes. I love the way that it forms up the back of the bike with the handgun and all that. Like, I just think it's a really well done piece, man. It's really, really solid. I don't know. This one came out really late in the year, and it may have had a different impact on me had it come out like a month earlier or so. But like, you know, my lists are pretty much finalized, but I might try to include this guy in next year, you know, depending on how this goes, because he really is a solid figure. But, you know, time will tell. Anyway, strong recommend from me. Hope that helps. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.